All right. So, welcome to the Forge Coffee Break. This is the episode 5, and the Forge Coffee Break is, if this is your first time, this is an open space for Forge topics. I'm Augusto Gonçalves. I'm part of the Forge Advocates team. Today here I have a very special guest, Peter Bros from the same team. And we are going to review a few samples, what's going on with Forge, a few latest tips and tricks, if you may say. And usually we start with some time for questions. If you have any questions and if you have any points you'd like to ask, this is a very open space, right? The idea is to discuss whatever you have in mind. And let's see, anything from you? Any new ideas, new topics coming up to mind?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Please.
So we are working on a project here, and we would like to see the assembly sheets on a viewer,
Mm-hmm.
and to have the ability to select each part of the assembly on the viewer and see the properties and all. And we discovered that to be able to select the parts on the viewer
Mm-hmm.
inside a sheet, we need to select, I believe it's hidden lines or consistent colors on the graphics options of the 3D view. And it works pretty well overall when we create a project from scratch. Uh, but we have, when we create a project from a template that have some assemblies or already created, the sheets are not interactive when we translate on the viewer, and we tried to figure out what might be causing this, and we were not able to do that so far. So I would like to ask, what are the all of the options that we need to make sure are configured to be able to select parts inside a sheet on the viewer?
When you say sheets and parts, we're talking about inventor assemblies, right? So just to be sure.
Yeah, assemblies
But
instances.
it's
I can
sorry,
share. Go ahead, Tiago.
sorry, Rafael. Rafael is talking about Revit actually.
Okay.
Revit.
So
Yes, I
assemblies in
was
Revit.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
sorry. We have a Revit project with some assembly
right.
instances, and then when we translate the Revit file to the viewer, we are not being able to select parts inside that sheet.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say that but when you were talking about Inventor, that I had heard a similar issue in the past for Revit. So I think this is the same thing. And it's basically, if I remember correctly, what was going on was that for specific publishing or export settings in Revit, right? In some cases, for some settings, Revit, when generating the 2D sheets, would try and generate like better looking graphics. And the problem is that at that point, Revit would be generating raster graphics, not vector graphics, right?
Hmm.
So that was the problem when suddenly you had a 2D sheet that had some nice shaded surfaces, maybe when you had like like different views on your 2D sheets. But those were just simple, pixels. And
Hmm.
the viewer cannot really do a lot with those. So then I remember that I talked to someone from the Revit team, and they said, yeah, you need to go to the publish settings and disable this, nice looking shaded output in 2D sheets. And then Revit will actually, when it's being converted to the file format used by Forge Viewer, it will actually output vector graphics with all the metadata that you need. So this is I guess, a specific behavior of Revit when it comes to, converting 2D sheets from Revit into this um, file format used by Forge Viewer.
I see. And where do I disable this option? Because we actually were able to see that that the viewports are being converted to image. Um, And on an empty project, the way that we bypass that was selecting the 3D view, and on the graphic display options, we select either hidden lines or consistent colors, and then it works pretty well. But on this specific template that I have, even doing that, the viewport gets converted to an
Still a
image.
raster image.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly. I think it was in some publishing settings in Revit.
Uh-huh.
I remember there was something like shaded surfaces or something. Again, I need to. I know. I think we discussed that on Stack Overflow.
Mm-hmm.
And we even talked about, in that Stack Overflow question, we even talked about the specific settings in Revit, the UI, where to find it. But I don't remember from the top of my head. I need to take a look. But yes, I remember that this had happened before. And I'm thinking it might be something that would deserve maybe like a blog post
Mm-hmm.
on our Forge blog. Um, because yeah, I mean, it's something that people may run into every once in a while, right? And in most cases, again, it's just a matter of knowing which publishing config options to switch, or to set or clear. So I think, again, maybe we should write a blog post about that. And other than that, if today you have a Revit model that, even when you try and configure the publishing settings for it, and when you run it through Forge, you're still getting raster images in the 2D sheets, let us know. If you could share the model with us through the forge.help@autodesk.com, we'd be happy to bring it to the Revit team and basically ask them for help to see, what can be
Awesome.
done with these models to make sure that what you get in Viewer is usable data, not just, a raster image.
Awesome. I'll search for the Stack Overflow then, and try to figure out everything. And then if does not work, I can share a project with you guys. Thanks a lot for the help.
Sure, no worries. I'll try and take a look on Stack Overflow while others here are chatting as well.
Awesome. Thanks.
I was trying to open Revit and see if I can find the setting, but it is related to how you change use the uh, uh, what's the name, the level of visibility, and I forgot the name now. Okay. When you say you want a coarse or medium or low, right? So that's how the viewer will decide if they will export as lines in geometry or as an image, right? Because the viewer cannot render very good, right, high quality. So it needs an image to describe that. So I was trying to find the setting here, but yeah, it's something that you have to do on how you detail level, right? So that's the one you have to decide when you go to your model. But yeah, we're trying to find that. And as Petro was saying, I think that applies to everyone, right? Whenever you have a question, this is a great place to ask questions. We have the doctors in appointments as well, and we have the Forge help that you can just forge.help@autodesk.com, post any question. We will answer those questions very fast. And Mani, you raise your hand. Mani.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to you all for organizing this. This is my second time participating. I'm really enjoying it.
Thanks for
I have a
coming again.
question regarding quantity takeoff. You receive all kinds of models. Sometimes the models are, federated models coming from Navisworks, hybrid of all kinds of files. Sometimes it's direct Revit. The way properties are being queried would depend on how these models are formulated. So we don't have any systematic approach to take off quantity because the properties vary across different file names. Is there any tutorial, is there any documentation you have on how best quantity takeoff can be done, considering how you're creating these metadata that is associated with the geometry, comes with the SVF files?
So when you extract a model with the model derivative, right, that will get you the metadata. which means you have one group of data for each object. The actual or the original quantity takeoff from the Revit model that you see on a schedule, for instance, that data is not extracted with mod derivative, right? So what you can do is to use the Revit API with design automation to extract the scheduling or the quantity takeoff information from that model, which will be design automation, not mod derivative.
I see. So I have to get a file to be passed to design API, get metadata, do that on our end, completely separate from how we displaying it through the Forge viewer. And model
Yeah, so going back from the beginning, right? So when we go to the model derivative and viewer path, it means that we get the geometry and we get the metadata for each element on the model. So in the case of Revit, families, instances, etc. That's for one element at a time, right? Inside Revit, you have the scheduling quantity takeoff view of the model, which is a table with all the data that you have inside that model. That table data is not extracted. So the way to access that data right now is using the Revit API. You can do that locally on your desktop environment, or you can get that same plugin and execute that on the cloud. So you send the Revit model to design automation with your plugin, the .NET code, that will execute, extract the metadata for you, and then you download that data. We do have a sample on the Revit SDK on how to do it. So do you know that Revit can be programmed with .NET?
Yes, though would that not be desktop? We don't want to have anything on the desktop. This
Yes.
basically, we need to create a plugin for Revit. We're trying to avoid that. We just want the customer to directly upload models from others' products into our platform.
So that's the Revit API, which is a desktop API, right?
Right.
But on design automation, it's the same engine that you have on your desktop. The only difference is that you are running that code on the cloud and in a batch mode, automated mode, right? So let's say, as soon as your customer upload a file to wherever, BIM 360 or any other system, you react to it, sending that file to design automation. Design automation will extract the additional information that you need, in this case, quantity takeoff, and then get back, okay?
Right.
That said, in many cases, the quantity takeoff from Revit, it may be too much data, right? You don't need all of that. That's why in many cases, you can do some calculations based on the metadata that is extracted by model derivative, right? So I would suggest that you look at the BIM 360 XLS sample. In this sample, there is oops, not this. Keep confusing keywords sometimes. There is another sample which is the Forge XLS sample, and this one here. So this is the same thing, but
I see.
you don't have to sign in, right? So there is a Revit mod that we will open here. Once you click on that button, we are going to get all the data from the model and create a spreadsheet. And in many cases, you can do some calculations with that data only. And the reason I say that is this is a much easier way, right? The data is already there. You are just manipulating the data. You're not doing extra stuff there. So if the data that you can extract with this sample works for you, great. You don't have to do design automation. And but if you need more, then design automation that allows you to get everything that you can do with the .NET API.
Got it. Wonderful. Sounds great.
Yeah,
All right.
I think
Appreciate it.
one typical, sorry, just a quick thing. Just one typical example of when customers go to some like design automation is in Revit specifically that, viewer usually brings metadata that is attached to something physical, right? So you have metadata attached to your walls, to your windows, and everything that you see in your Revit model. Sometimes, however, customers need to be able to get access to other kinds of metadata that may exist in a Revit document, but metadata that is not necessarily attached to any physical element of your model, right? So that's another common use case where people go to design automation, because then you can use the Revit API and you basically have direct access to the Revit data structure, to the data model, right? And you can get any data you want out of it.
And this is a sample on that approach that we have this wall and the compound layer information of a wall, which is not extracted because it's not visible in the Revit model. So, and whenever you open a model, we send that to design automation and extract just that additional piece, right? The layers on a wall, which are not visible because of the way Revit renders the model. But when you click on the wall and go to properties, there is an extra group of properties with each layer and the width of each layer. So you can just multiply that by the area and you have the material, right? So yeah, that's a way to extract additional information. The sample is right here. This uses design automation. There is a .NET plugin that runs inside design automation. And in this case, connects to BIM 360. And the sample is right here.
Wonderful. And speaking about this process, one of the other needs that we have is models are not broken down at the right level of granularity, and the customers are not willing to go back to Revit to do it. We tell them the process, but they're not going to do it. So the question is, if we give them an interface to break the model into areas, can we send that as a command back to the design automation API and receive a model with broken down components? I assume it is. I'm just wondering if anybody has ever tried that before.
I've never seen that before. I understand the idea. My question to you is if you can do that manually in Revit right now, the workflow you're describing. No, even if it's too complicated, right? But can you do that manually?
Yes, it is possible to do it in Revit, correct.
Okay,
You can use the, yes.
So it is possible, first point, right? The second question you need to answer is if this is possible via the API. You know, sometimes a feature on the product is not available at the API. But I don't have the answer right now. From what we're describing, it seems that you want to get do a crop of the module, right? I would say that it's possible, but I would have to check. So what I would ask you, Mani, to do is to send us this question via the Forge support, forge.help@autodesk.com, just that specific part, right? It is possible to break down a model using the Revit.net API. All of the other answers we have, right? If this is possible with the .NET API, then we can automate with design automation. Yeah.
Right. I think there was also going back to the example that Augusto showed with the compounds, right? Where I also remember we had a customer who needed to be able to actually even see the individual layers of a wall as separate objects, right? And if I remember correctly, he mentioned that, yes, there is a way to do that in Revit. And I think they actually ended up doing that using design automation for Revit. So one thing to note about the design automation engines like for Revit, Inventor, and others is that it's not only for extracting some kind of data that you need that maybe Forge is not extracting by default, but it's also about modifying your designs, right? So that's very typical for when we talk, for example, about design automation for Inventor, where you may want to have some sort of a configurator, but the same thing could be applied to Revit actually, where maybe you want to upload, you know, start with a blank Revit model or maybe with an existing parametric Revit model, and you want to provide some additional parameters to your design automation task that will modify the Inventor assembly or the Revit model, adding maybe furniture here and there, right? Placing furniture around the house based on some, I don't know, maybe some JSON file that you feed as an input to your design automation task. And then the output could be, you know, an updated, modified Revit model or Inventor assembly with new content or with the modifications applied to it. So the same thing, like you said, if there is a way in Revit, this is, I mean, I'm not a Revit specialist, but if there is a way in Revit to, using Revit APIs to maybe, you know, make objects more granular to get them to the granularity that you need, there is a pretty good chance that you could automate that process as well using design automation.
Wonderful. Thanks. Sorry, I'm hijacking this opportunity. Last quick question. When is SVF2 going to be released?
We don't have a date for release yet. We are
How
working
can we
to
be wide
have.
label for that? We just asked
Say again?
Is there a way we can be wide label? We really need that. We have
Yeah.
other data that we're loading into the viewer, so it's
So
we need
yeah, we are
optimization
finishing.
couple.
Yeah, we are finishing some homework to get into beta very soon, right? And as soon as all the homework is done, we will put that on our blog. So that's the way to get the information, right? When it's available for beta. But we are almost there. It's just that it's a huge work, and we need API, we need support, we need you know gateway. There's a lot of stuff to get something like that out the door. So it's almost there. But yeah, stay tuned to the blog.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, but it's almost there, right? We're just on the final steps. It's coming soon. Cool. Thank you. Any other questions? I forgot to ask you all about your coffee mugs. If you have anything like that. So what else is going on? What else do you remember, Peter? That's going on these last few weeks? I saw you did a lot of blog posts these last few weeks, Peter.
Oh,
You've been very active.
a question.
Oh, yes, please.
Hi. I was wondering, I'm trying to read in PCF files, so the isometric drawings that are delivered from a fabricator. When I'm on construction projects, we'll have the engineer put in all of the pipe and then give it over to the fabricator and never bring that information back into the 3D model. So the model that we have to install to doesn't have any of the field welds or any of the things that are actually going to be installed in the field. And I wondered if there was any either Forge project or anything at Autodesk that could read in PCF or IDF files and create 3D geometry. And so I could see the pipe and where specifically long stretches of pipe are cut. So I can see, okay, I'm gonna lift 5 meters of this piece of pipe and 3 meters of this other spool together to bolt it together. I just wanted to know if anyone knew anything about that.
PCF file format?
Yeah, that's for 3D,
isometric
right?
drawings.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not on our list of supported with Forge. Because there is these are not actually geometry files or with that kind of information. I remember that PCF is supported by Plant 3D, right?
Plant 3D. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
have all
yeah.
the geometry reading, so I wondered if I could create it, but no, it's just a question.
Okay. Yeah, PCF. I think that's the one that is PCF. Plant.
I have examples of it, but
Yeah. So I'm quickly browsing here because I remember on other life working with Plant 3D. So PCF, right? So there is some support for that in Plant 3D.
okay.
That would be the way to go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for your question.
Hi there.
Hi, Viet.
Can I have a quick one? It's just on design automation. I'm doing some studies, and is there a way to reduce the amount of timeout on the server for failed jobs?
Reduce the timeout for a failed
Yeah, I
job
think it's
in design
about
automation.
yeah, I think it's about 1 to 2 hours now. Can I do, for example, 15 minutes?
Okay. Yes. Let me get.
Yeah, because sometimes I just process a very small family, and if it's not coming back in a few minutes, I know it's failing anyway.
Okay. Service limits.
Right. There was a way, right, to configure service limits. I'm looking for it now.
Yeah, I've just got it here. Give me a sec. Let me share. I think that's the service limits, right? Front
Yeah,
end
I think the
limits.
processing time might be the one you're looking for. You should be able to
Yeah.
configure the maximum processing time in seconds for your tasks.
Yeah. So you
Oh, I
can read
see.
or write that, right? So you're just telling the system to do in a different way. But
Do I,
yeah,
yeah, sorry, do I do this before submitting any work item?
yes, that's before you start the work item, right?
Oh, yeah.
I believe so, yes.
Do you have any example doing this?
I don't think we have a sample because this is something that you would customize on different settings. But there is just one endpoint: put service limit, and you just tell the system, okay, for Revit, let me use this, let's say a different value, right? So I would
Yeah.
say to get the values that are already there, so you're not changing anything else, and just change the one you want, right? In this case, let's say you want to change the processing time for Revit,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you
that
do
will
have to
do.
start that before you start the work item.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So
I'll look into this.
yeah, we're changing just that property, right? Limit processing time. What I would say additionally is that to have better, to have more pieces on, more checks on your code to make sure that this is running, right? So whenever you have a function on your code, to quickly check for that, right? But I understand that you may have a request for the Revit API, and that request inside the Revit API will fail, not inside your code, right? So yeah, but that should prevent that. But you don't want to do that very small, very low, because otherwise it may fail before the job is actually finished.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. I'll check this.
Cool. I think that's the one, right? Yeah. Thank you. Good question. So what else is going on? I see
Yeah.
a
So,
lot of people
Augusto, you
coming back.
mentioned
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
of the blog posts. So
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of
we had
blog posts last few weeks, right? And I was saying that you,
yes,
Petra, are very active. What's going on there?
these two.
I
Yeah,
see
and so I
custom
know
shaders.
right the custom shader something might be of interest if you guys are hacking away on custom materials in Forge Viewer. Um, there's been an effort to move Forge Viewer to the new WebGL standard, to WebGL 2.0, and that WebGL 2.0 is a bit more strict when it comes to binding um, outputs of your shaders to some output buffers. So what that means is that in some cases, if you had like customized shaders, like in this case, people would often generate things like sort of a heat maps, shader material for some custom elements in their scene. And some of those may be having issues now because of the WebGL 2.0 upgrade. So this blog post, just so you know, just keep it in the back of your head. If you ever again hack on shader materials and you run into some strange issues, complaints in the browser console, something about um, um, shader outputs not being compatible with buffers, with output buffers, trying to look this blog post up. It explains a couple of ways. So explains what's going on there and how you can go around customizing your shaders to make them work again. So that's this one. And then the other one that I also published recently, that was a question that I was getting quite frequently, where customers are often interested in querying metadata without necessarily using the viewer, right? So they do have all the metadata they need. That all the metadata they need is generated or extracted by the model derivative service, but they maybe need to do it they need to access the data in a headless way without necessarily opening the viewer in a browser tab and using the viewer API. So this blog post basically, again, explains some of the options you have if you want to, start, again, querying your metadata extracted from your designs by the model derivative service without the viewer, right? So it explains, how the data is actually extracted, how it's stored by the model derivative service, and how you can get access to it, and how you can query the data there.
Very
So that
cool.
was the
Yeah.
other one.
Thank you. Yeah. Very good, very interesting, this part of how can we read the data that is behind the viewer, just because it's compressed, right? So it's different from the mod derivative endpoints. The mod derivative endpoints are the official way or supported way, and whenever you do something like this, the benefit is that you can get the SQLite kind of format. Very cool.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi.
So I'm a newbie to Forge. So and
how
I
are
have
you?
I have a question on the translation.
Mm-hmm.
So after I translate file, then I delete it from the bucket. So the translated file is still there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So my question is, so how to list the translated file after I delete all those original files from bucket?
So right now you have to delete them or list them before you delete the file, right? So the original file, original seed file, and the translated file are different system, different connections. So you can list them if you have the object is still there. Let's say you uploaded a file, translated that, and now you want to delete only the translated version. You say delete manifest.
Yeah.
So that will delete the translated version of that file.
So it means I have to record that object ID somewhere
Or you
before
can
I
just leave
delete
the
that
file.
original file.
Yeah, or you can just leave the file there if you want to know that the data that is still there.
Yeah, because there is a limit for the bucket. Yeah, it's 5 gig. Yes.
Well, the limit of 5 gig is actually during the trial.
Okay.
And you don't want to stay on trial for more than 90 days, right? That's the longest the trial will go. After that, not after that. When you move to a subscription, then with the storage is unlimited, right? So you don't have to worry about that when you go to a subscription. So essentially, you don't have to worry about that because you have to go to subscription at some point. The trial is just 90 days.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, don't worry about the storage, space at least, because as soon as you move to subscription, that will not be a problem anymore. And you have to, right? Because 90
Yes.
days.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Interesting question. Thank you. And as we're talking here, we changed that some time ago about the trial. The trial is now 90 days, and it still includes the 100 credits. And we are seeing that most of the developers coming to Forge will get something running and a prototype to verify that that's what they need in a very short period. So that's why we changed it to 90 days. And 100 cloud credits, you can do a lot with that, right? We can run hours and hours of design automation, or dozens of modules on model derivative. So it's a lot to try.
Okay. So I have another question for the translation. So when I retranslate a file, I just noticed the translated file is not updated until I delete it and then retranslate it. So is there something that I missed?
Yes, you need this here.
Force flag you can use.
Okay. Okay, got it. Yeah. Thank you.
That will force a retranslation, right? So if you have a file there, you can delete the file or delete the manifest. Sorry, but if you re-upload the file and just a post translation again, that will not override the translation. You have to say override translation, and the default value is false, right? And this is to avoid double charging you, right? So you want to make sure that I know that I want to retranslate this file because the original file changed, or there is a change on some child files, right? Let's say you have an assembly with several parts, and you changed one part on that big assembly. Then you want to say, okay, force retranslation because I changed one part, not the main file, but one child file.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, could I have another quick one?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, it's to do with Revit models. You know, on your desktop version, when you open a file, you have several opening options. Things like worksets to close, worksets to open. But when I do opening the file with design automation, it just opens without any options. Is it possible to say close all the worksets when you open it on the server?
So right now, design automation only supports non-work shared files, right? So only disconnected files, not anything like central work sharing, etc. This is our number one priority right now, and we are working really hard to get that done. So yeah, that will come very soon to support work shared files and other options there. It's coming. It's the number one priority for the Revit team.
Yeah, I found out that if you upload a central model or any local files to the system, it will open the task file anyway, and then give a random name in the form of a unique ID. Yeah, so I'm sure it's coming soon. Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yeah, that's this is our number one priority to support that kind of workflow. From what I understand, the first step will be to have a read feature, but that's the first step, right? And that's the one we're working hard to get. And as I was mentioning before, as soon as we have that feature enabled, we will announce on the blog, go on the newsletter, because we get that question at least twice a day from customers, from partners. That's a very important one.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be watching the blog.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry. Thank you again. We're just a few minutes above our original time. Any last minute questions?
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate doing these.
Thank you, Mani.
Thank you, guys.
Here, and thank you all for coming. Our next session will be August 26th in 2 weeks. Same time, same link, and I hope to see you soon. And I'll be publishing this the recording on YouTube and sharing that on Twitter. If you wanna replay any of the samples that you missed. By the way, if you Peter shared a few links, you have to go to the chat window and copy those, because when we finish the session, the links will go away. So be sure to copy the links, and see you in 2 weeks.
All right.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See you then.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you.
See you
Bye-bye.
guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.